left that well-paying entry-level job for an unpaid internship at Red Pepper. Just because when I saw the broadcast world and the cameras and the studios, I was like, I'll work here for free. This just looks like the coolest thing ever. And then in my first month, I ended up working on the Powerball draw. So what I would do was just put up the graphics with the number of the balls. Once we were actually live and cameras were rolling, it got more intense. And then the number 32 pops up. I see 33.
I started for free. You started for free. And we find that in today's world, the work ethic and the attitude towards the start point of a career, young people tend to lack that sense of what it takes to get into this thing. Greetings and welcome to Just Speak, the Shaun Naidu podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you're enjoying everything that we've been bringing you so far on the podcast. We're brand new still. As one of my former guests said to me, we're fixing this thing as we fly it. And that's a really, really nice way of saying it, because, you know, we genuinely are learning on the job, and I'm excited about that because, you know, we're not afraid of showing weakness and showing that one can strengthen yourself from weakness, which is really good. Today, we're bringing you one of our own. I am joined in studio by friend, partner in business, an all-round creative guy, and just, and also an all-round nice guy. His name is Edwin Soobramoney. I have known Edwin for many, many years, and I'll leave that to him to take you through the history, because I also want to test him to see how much he still remembers about our journey. But welcome, Ed.
Yeah, happy to be here on the other side of things. I haven't even got an intro like that before, so it's interesting to hear someone.
It's your first time too.
Yeah. I usually like to be a background member.
See your name in the credits.
It's my name. Like wait for the end of it. But yeah, nice to be introduced up front.
At Edwin's with an NNN.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah. I mean, anyone that knows me from the past knows I have three names and then my surname. So it's Edwin, Nathan, No. So those two N's are just my two other names, and that's my. But it's also a gamer tag. So at the end, when I kill people in games, it would say Ed wins.
Ed wins.
Yeah, so
nice.
It started off as a gamer tag, but it's just my name and my initials. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, but I liked the fact that you'd added those two ends of your name into the.
Yeah, because people do that unintentionally. I mean, not unintentionally, but like they'll just extend their name for nothing. That's my actual initials.
Yeah.
My
Edwin Nathan Noel Soobramoney. Wow.
I used to annoy teachers because in school you'd have that line for your name, and it was always too short for my full name.
Write the whole thing.
So, ma'am, there's no space for my name. All the way back in like primary school, I was doing that. But,
and what did your parents tell you was the reason they went with all those names? Who are these people that they were honoring?
Well, Noel is my dad's name.
Okay.
So we just took that on. Then they were confused about what to name me, like Ethan, Nathan. So they went with Edwin after a Pastor Eddie.
Okay.
And then they just kept the Nathan there. And then, interestingly enough, my brother's name is Owen Cheslin Noel Soobramoney. So he also got that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But yeah, and then once Facebook came out, there was actually a place to show the public your extra names, because outside of your ID, no one's going to know your other names usually.
So you went with all of it?
So I went with all with it. And then I'd meet people who we're friends on Facebook. Then we'll meet them at the mall and like, you Edwin Nathan Noel Soobramoney. So it just became like a running joke amongst my friends. Yeah. That's the story of my name.
Okay. And where are you from?
Oddly enough, I was born in Mpumalanga, which I found out on that trip. We went on a work trip to Mpumalanga, and my whole life, my mom told me, you were born in Joburg, like Gauteng, because they lived here when I was born, and then we moved to Durban. So I was raised in Durban. I'm a Durban boy.
Yeah.
All over the coast. And then over the years, my mom just, we lived in Hillbrow, we lived here, there. So I just assumed I was born in Gauteng until we went on that trip a few months ago. And I saw a few of the signboards. I'm like, these are all familiar. Called my mom. I'm like, Mom, where was I born? And she's like, Checkout Hospital. We lived here. And I'm like, Mom, this is in Mpumalanga. My whole life has been a lie. So I'm actually born in Mpumalanga, raised in Durban, all over the coast. And then I've been in Joburg for like 13, 14 years now, I believe. Yeah.
13, 14 years, and I somehow feel like that timeline tracks exactly to our timeline. And
Pretty much, because I met you when I first got here.
Yeah.
Maybe that same year. Yeah, I think in 2013. Is that when we met?
Yeah, because I remember Yash introducing us and
12,
just saying
12
to me,
going on 13 years, yeah.
yeah, she said, hey, you got to meet this kid, and he's kind of like creative, and he studied, and he can do all these cool things. And, you know, me being a producer and always needing such people around me, we met, and I remember the cool hairdo and all of those things. I mean,
my hair might have been looked similar because I'm going back to my
back to
younger
your original
hairstyle. Yeah, mini mohawk.
hair vibes. Yeah, I remember the mohawk hairstyle. But cool, man. And so tell me a little bit about just your time in Durban. And because I know you studied in Durban, like you actually after school decided to study while you were still there. I wouldn't have even known, to be honest, that Durban had a focus on creative industry studying. But it was cool to know that there was. And
I mean, at the time, it was like DUT, they still probably the best, or at the time, they were the best offering like graphic design or whatever design degree you were going to get. I ended up at CFAD, which is Center for Fine Art, Animation and Design, which is where Yash studied as well.
okay.
And this was led by Nanda Subban. He's a famous illustrator in South Africa. He did political cartoons and he had like a lot behind his name. And I ended up there. So it was more of a private art college. There was like less than 50 people in my year. So it was we all knew each other and stuff like that. And the reason why I ended up there was they had a very integrated course. So we did fine art, animation, design, web design, communication studies. So that was very appealing to me because I'm very much a generalist over someone who specializes in things. So that appealed to me. So in our exams, we were doing painting and the next day designing a website. And I don't think you kind of get that experience studying elsewhere. But now there's a lot of avenues to study creative fields. It's like changed so much. Even when I was getting into it, from an Indian household, you would never push your kid to go study anything that's art related or design. I had friends at the time who wanted to do it so badly, but their parents were like, nope, engineer, accounting, whatever. They had no choice in the matter.
That was actually going to be one of my questions, because knowing the sort of tendency of Indian families to favor very academic, very professional, or what they consider to be professional careers, how did your parents take to the idea that you wanted to go into creative field?
So I asked my dad when I was 11, so it was mostly just my mum when it came to that. And she was very supportive from the start. So was the rest of my family. But actually, like my dad was a tradesman, he was a boiler maker. My mom's sister at the time got me like an apprenticeship to go into like fitting and turning in the trade industry.
Oh, wow.
Because it was like lucrative. There was an opportunity immediately. So before I went for my interview at campus, I had gone to that. And I think I was like given the apprenticeship or whatever. But then that same auntie took me for my interview at the art college. And there we did like, your portfolio and stuff. And I got accepted, and my auntie was like, you need to do this. You can't come back for this apprenticeship and start welding and stuff because we can see your work. And the dean was so impressed, and he was like willing to get me in. And there was like a small registration fee. And my auntie's like, we're paid now. So I kind of would have been open to doing an apprenticeship and getting into trade because that would have been much more lucrative. I'd be able to support my family a bit better. But then just all signs were pointing to like, you have to study this. I also got 100% for visual art in matric.
Okay.
Which was like, okay, getting such high marks you could get in. My portfolio was decent. Even at the time when I went to get my results, the secretary was the principal wants to speak to you. I thought I'm in trouble. I failed. Something with school fees. And then he goes there, shakes my hand. He's like, congratulations, you made history in the school. You're the first student to get like 100% for a matric subject. But art is relatively easy to get high marks. The rest of my friends were like high 90s. I was just sort of an overachiever where I submitted like 2 practicals for my final. So they were like forced to give me full marks, I feel.
I was actually going to say, because you say it's like easy, but I would question that, because they always say art is subjective firstly, right? So you may be coming at it in one direction and the person receiving it may have a differing perspective, and that could result in reduction in marks. So getting the 100 must have really been a big deal.
It came from my art teacher, Mr. Mutton. He is actually a big inspiration why I even got into this, because he kept us grounded. He taught us what we need to know. And he always said, you're always as good as your last piece of work. Don't be happy with being a big fish in a small pond. Those kind of things stayed with me up until now.
Yeah.
So during my final matric practical, I did something in color, whereas my specialty was black and white. So I finished my exam 2 days early. I've always been fast. And then he looked at it, he's like, this is good, it'll get you an A, but your strength is color. Don't you want to do a black and white one in 2 days? And I managed to do that. So I submitted 2 pieces for my practical, which is why I feel like they gave me 100% for that. I got a special award from the Department of Education and stuff. So it was you have to study art now because, the signs are pointing that way. And that's how I ended up there, pretty much.
Well, color is definitely, we're sitting in front of your work.
Yeah. No, I've since grown to get good at doing color work.
Which is interesting, and we'll get into it a little bit later. But, the black and white that we've always favored and played with as well, with some of the designs of logos and things. And then we came up with this, and, we threw every bit of color we could at it, which is interesting. But so you talk about being an overachiever and that type of thing. So you must have did you have entrepreneurial or work ethic type of thing very early on? Did you have, whether it's a paper route or go into working world prematurely?
I would say I got used to earning young. I was doing catering at weddings in grade 10. From grade 11, I was hired at Mr. Price as a casual. I was working retail all the way up until I finished campus. So 5 years of part-time work before I even got a first-time job.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, I started at Mr. Price in grade 11, and at the end of that December, the manager offered me a full-time position, and I was like, I have to go and do matric, because we had to lie and say I'm done with matric. But so I got used to earning a very young age. I could not not be making money somewhere, not because of greed, just to ease the load off my mom. She had to raise 3 kids on her own, so me paying my own traveling for campus and school fees and stuff like that was that's why I did it. But in terms of entrepreneurial personality, that was never me.
Yeah.
I almost felt bad taking money from people sometimes for my work, because creating art, you're creating design, it feels good to do. And then I kind of had to learn that. And then as I started freelancing, kind of learned the business side and invoicing and chasing things like that. But still not an entrepreneurial spirit up until I feel I was sort of pushed in there by people around me who were like, you should be doing this, and kind of learned on the job since.
Yeah, very cool. Well, when it comes to being an entrepreneur, and I think this is what I wanted to really sort of do with our conversation today, establish a little bit about you, which is why I focus on the creative side of you, because what's interesting is that you did eventually take the leap of setting up a business and going full swing into being a business, not just a freelancer, not just an employee. And I just felt like this episode, I've been saying that as we grow the podcast, we want to also sort of see the Just Speak fall into some categories. So maybe it's Just Speak Business, or Just Speak Finance, Just Speak Health. And that as the different guests come on into these areas, they'll start to form little mini subcategories for us. And this gives us a double edge in that way, right? It gives us the ability to talk about our industry, the creative spaces, and just go through our journey together, but also focus a little bit about you taking that leap in business and how that's been for you. So really speaking, again, like I said, if yours would be a tricky one to put into categories, or we'll sit it in both categories, for what it's worth. But I think this is really cool. But you were telling me a funny story earlier about red pepper, was it?
Yeah. So since finishing campus, I was looking for jobs in Durban.
Yeah.
And entry-level designer, whatever. It was so difficult to find anything that was even would cover travel costs. There's no industry in Durban at the time. Perhaps it's better now. And then I actually came to Joburg for a Swedish House Mafia concert. As you know, I like my music festivals. And while here, I was like, let me just check a few interviews. And then I ended up getting a job as a web developer. And at the time, it was a very high salary, almost 3 to 4 times what I was getting offered in Durban. And then, I just went home, got some clothes, moved up. I did that job for a month. And it was like coding and stuff. And I felt like, it's cool and all, but like I want to be making stuff. And, I just felt that wasn't going to happen there. And then I left that well-paying entry-level job for an unpaid internship at Red Pepper. Just because when I saw the broadcast world and the cameras and the studios, I was like, I'll work here for free. This just looks like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like Superman at the Daily Planet and Spider-Man. That's what it felt like to me, like looking at the servers, just this massive thing. And I started as an intern there, working on, at the time, Powerball draw. And I had 2 shifts every week on a Tuesday and Friday night. That was it. The rest of the time, I didn't need to be there. And then in my first month, I ended up working on the Powerball draw. So what I would do was just put up the graphics with the number of the balls. Yeah. And it was a whole production workflow where we had like a production secretary looking at the ball. We had a camera that... no room for error in live TV, as you would know. And it's like 4 minutes. Till this day, those 4 minutes of every draw was adrenaline pumping. Yeah. And I had made a good impression. So typically, if you train to do that job, you train for like 6 to 8 weeks before they give you an episode. Yeah. And because I came from a design background, I was fluent with technology. It doesn't matter what computer or software you throw at me, I can figure it out. They felt confident enough to like, it's fine, you can do this show. And once we were actually live and cameras were rolling, it got more intense. And then the number 32 pops up. I see 33. So I put in 33. 33 pops up there. The whole control room is like losing their minds. Within a second, we managed to correct it and put the correct number up to 32. But the damage was done. Afterwards, there were allegations the Powerball draw is rigged because someone had 33.
Yeah. I had it. No. I wish I didn't
play
the
I had
lotto.
to go and have like a serious meeting. There were newspaper articles saying the operator made a finger error. This is the reason why. It's severely audited. If people want to know, you can rig the Powerball draw. You can't. I've seen it firsthand. And I think that was my first month. So even like the producers and stuff were like, it's I didn't get into trouble with the company. They were like, I think I worked on the next few draws shortly after. It was just like, first time live show kind of thing. But there were serious repercussions attached to that, but it didn't affect anything too much. But then I became like infamous at the company because this is my first month. Everyone knew who's this guy that messed up the Powerball draw. So I became like infamous at the company. So everyone kind of knew me earlier, and it wasn't because of my work or my work ethic. It was just because this guy messed up. And then it kind of became an endearing thing as my career went, because I went from that unpaid intern making mistakes to like the lead creative there for a number of years up until I left. But it's really where I cut my teeth and learned the industry. I spent 8 years there working in the broadcast environment. So I probably should have left earlier. A lot of people told me to do that, to do my own thing. But, at times it felt like a family. Even some people told me there's no loyalty when you work at a company. If you get a better offer, just leave. But I really felt like part of the company, family there for a little while. And I still have lifelong friends that I made there. I still have a good relationship with the company. So in some ways, loyalty does. You know me. I'm a very loyal person. I probably stick around longer than I should in some instances. But yeah, that's what my first job was, actually.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you must be a real fan of the 6-7 trend that was going around, since numbers is your thing.
Yeah.
Seeing the numbers wrong. I'm pretty sure I was the one that won that lotto.
Wasn't
for the 33. Yeah, but I also, what's interesting is that we've walked a long journey, you and I, together. And unfortunately, because when you're building anything from the ground up, which we were doing, you don't always have the backing of certain things, and it takes a little bit longer. And so in my world, it was a long time before I was going to be able to bring you in as a resource and as a support that I always needed but couldn't afford to really, right? Because the business wouldn't just allow that. But somehow, when you think about the experience you gained at Red Pepper and what that developed you into, it's actually amazing and the right way to do things, to gain that experience. And I'm glad also that you speak of things like loyalty even to Red Pepper, because you don't take for granted when people give you these opportunities, and you certainly don't burn bridges as you try to leave to seek new opportunities. And it's become reflected in the idea that when you started Premium Pixel Studios, they, as Red Pepper, were one of your big supporters and kept you in business, right? They became the client.
Yeah.
And that's like a huge thing. And I think you won't find that being the case if you didn't have the type of attitude that you had.
Yeah.
I
think maybe that was not the intention, but it's just when you work with certain people, certain producers, the workflow so well. And I tend to, normally when you work in a creative agency or you're a designer or an animator, you have one part of the pipeline to work on. And then say we produce this animation, someone else would implement it into the system, someone else would operate it on the day. And because of my history, I learned that whole process. So I was doing work I wasn't supposed to be doing just because I just knew it. I would still like to go and sit in studio and be a crew member, even though that was not my job description, or I didn't even need to do it. I just embedded myself in that pipeline where I knew every stage of it, and I was able to enact changes immediately because I had my laptop there. Whereas if you're working with another animation studio, you're sending that email, someone's replying to it, it might come back the next day with the changes. So I found that my ability to work on every stage of that pipeline kept me in those conversations, just because of the inconvenience and the extra work that involves not knowing that and hiring an extra person sometimes to do that. So my value really, I started seeing being a generalist as a negative for a lot of my career, but I wouldn't be where I was if I just stuck to one thing. That's for sure, yeah.
And that's one of the standards I've always set with anybody that came to me, is that you couldn't really be one thing. If you came here, we're too small a team, and even though you can do certain productions, and we've had the privilege to work on bigger productions where extra freelancers and things come in, but our core team has always been multidisciplined, and able to do many things. And I think it's a part of the secret sauce that we have here. Is that. Funny enough, just by the way, I was just thinking about this, is that when I first walked into Urban Brew 20 years ago, and brand new, I'm talking about day one that I went into Urban Brew to even ask for an opportunity, there was a shoot taking place in the parking lot, which was the Lotto ball and what do you call it? Ball
the
set
machine?
and
ball
machine
sets,
selection.
Each one of those ball sets had a number.
Yeah.
Each one of those machines, it was, sorry to interrupt, it was so legit. People think it can be rigged.
Yeah.
That whole process, I've worked on hundreds of draws. You can't rig the actual draw. There's just so much of auditing going on, so much of...
Yeah, and I saw that. It was so crazy. It was in the parking lot. They had a camera up, and they were literally, there was somebody, they would get this guest person to come and do the selection.
Yeah.
And I think Urban Brew obviously had that.
They had Lotto, and Red Pepper was doing Powerballs for a number of years. Yeah.
So it's just interesting how, and that was my first exposure to a camera, in the parking lot of Urban Brew, never mind what was happening inside the studio. And so same thing, the bug just bit straight away.
Yeah, I had never seen, because in Durban, till this day, there's not much of that studio production happening there. So I'd never seen anything close to it.
Yeah, and as boys from Durban, just getting this exposure, it really, when you say that it'll bite you and grip you, I fully appreciate what that must have felt like, because I can remember it like it was yesterday, what it felt like being at Urban Brew. On that day one, it was Tris, the lady's name, that was running that little setup. And she actually was instrumental in my story, because she wrote on a business card who I should talk to pursue my opportunity. So it's a whole other thing, right? So I digress. But now you're in Joburg. You've kind of been cutting your teeth at Red Pepper, but you've also tried to side hustle a little bit, do a little bit of freelance work. I mean, I was a beneficiary to that for many years, where you would still... help me out in a freelance sense. Besides, and I know you and I spoke about work-life balance and how it battles when you're doing that, because you've got a full-time job and you're doing a side hustle. When we did our first film, you really put in the hours there because you had to go in like late. And I know Brad and you sat and worked on it like crazy.
I actually miss all-nighters. It doesn't happen that often
anymore.
Yeah, back in the day, like if there's a heavy project, it was just, and it's the whole team. It's just, the deadlines and and people knew that was the name of the game. Now sometimes you ask someone to stay an hour later, and it's like, hey, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like Pharrell. He doesn't like to work late. He's always running away from
So I was no stranger to all-nighters and putting in extra hours and stuff like that. But just speaking to that freelance, I mentioned before, I had like 2 shifts a week at the start. And maybe the first 2 years, I didn't go to the office like 5 days a week, or the first year at least. I actually, so their in-house team, I went up to them. I was like, can I come here in my free time and just sit around and learn?
Yeah.
And then after that, they were like, you just join the team full-time because you're offering value here. But because I had so much time off, I was able to freelance efficiently. But then when I started working like full-time every day, 9 to 5, whatever it was, I still kind of kept that freelance mentality, whereas on the weekends, I felt like if I'm not doing work, I'm wasting time, especially at that young age. It's the grind mindset. So I kind of kept it going. And then as I got more senior in my job responsibilities, I would take on a few projects a year that I knew necessarily wouldn't affect things in my day-to-day job, up until it got to a point where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I built relationships with my freelance clients where they were like, please, like, we don't want to find someone else. Can't you make a plan? And I even like tried to take some work to Red Pepper so I can still work on their stuff. But that didn't pan out. But yeah, there were days where I would work my 8-9 hours at the office, come home and work like another 8 hours, and then sleep. And then I had no work life. Anyone that knew me in a social sense knew I always had my laptop with me. There were times I'd be at a bar in the corner trying to get this done. And as a freelancer, your clients own your time. They call you anytime with requests. They don't care about your personal life. And me, for one, like I'm always willing to go the extra mile and stuff. So I never said no in that capacity. And then it all got to a point where even with you towards the end, it was maybe a few projects a year. It wasn't like a constant thing, but you would always know my situation. But I never really felt good about having a full-time job and freelancing. It was always like I need some extra cash. Let me just go do something.
Yeah, no, but I think, I always valued and appreciated the fact that because when I commit to taking on something for a client, whatever, I got to know that the resources that I'm going to call on to get the job done are there, right? And you've rescued me so many times where you're not an editor, as an example. And I remember bringing you something that needed like some edit assembly together, and you still make a plan and get it done. Like not your core competency, but you that's what it is about, being multi sort of disciplined. You can at least try. And I know a vivid memory of projects that you actually help. But where I was actually wanting to go with the conversation around the freelance versus working, and I started for free, you started for free, and we find that in today's world, the work ethic and the attitude towards the start point of a career, young people tend to lack that sense of what it takes to get into this thing, and they come in here. Again, we've been in business together now for a few years. You've experienced it. You've also seen me experience it with hectic team members that just had the worst possible attitude when it came to just wanting to get paid, wanting to get increases, wanting to really just have a selfish benefit to what they believe their work to be. And I've always been one to pay people for work done. But there's a certain amount of sacrifice and hustle that goes into the early days, and very few seem to have that in this generation.
I think it's prevalent when you see there's more creative directors than designers now. and I, by all means, have every right to call myself a creative director. I've been a creative director on projects multiple times. I know what it takes. But I've not once called myself a creative director because I've met actual real creative directors and I know what they do outside of just creating the work and the art direction and having discussions around budgets, timelines. There's so much toward leading a team. Whereas like now every Instagram bio, creative director, self-appointed creative director with no practical skills, or maybe they're using Canva or they're using AI to generate the artwork, but they are creative directors. So at that point, yeah, it's more prevalent now than ever, I think. Even when I work with some designers and juniors almost, when you look at their like Instagram, for example, it's like, oh my, this guy's hiring me by what they say they can do and the things they said they can do. There's also a lot of talkers in this industry. Me, personally, I'm not a talker. I've had to learn how to talk. I feel like my work always speaks for itself. And I've met so many talkers, we can do this, we can do that, and then we get in and we start the job, and it's like, I have to hold their hand through the whole process. And it's like, why did I even bring you on board in the first place? So I don't know if it's a mindset of like, they're not willing to put in the work. They're perhaps putting in that work elsewhere, not into refining their craft. I think I hardly find like proper people who are good at their craft who haven't been doing it for like 10 years. Whereas in the past, I feel you just commit to something hardcore for like a year, that craft will insanely be better than when you started. Whereas now I feel like that people are hardly practicing their crafts. It's more like, I just put this into AI and see what it gives me.
No, but also I think from the business's perspective, what I found to be a challenge was just the lack of support, you know, in the sense that you got these team members, which in my business, we were fortunate enough that we had work enough to employ some people full time and, you know, at salaries and whatever, which is fine. But the side hustle was always theirs, you know, the side hustle was always...
And then that was never a public thing. Even if you were doing that, it had to be like, there was contractual agreements, there's NDAs, there's all that. Know? Whereas now I feel everything's a bit more grey, where they'll tell you to your face, I'm working on something else.
Yeah, not bringing the value to you or even in any way trying to enhance the business's growth. But seeing it as just a way of setting up their future. And again, you know, I never want to hate on somebody's hustle, but my attitude has always been, if you're taking a salary from somebody, then put the value there because that is worth something. And if you want to build your own thing, build it. And that's the classic case with us here, where you join SNO for the first, a year or so, at a salary as a member of the team from that perspective. But always with the vision that you wanted to do something for yourself and by yourself and whatever. And we were able to find a working case scenario where you could leap and do that and have a little bit of the support that came from SNO. And, you know, and here you are, you're like fully self-sufficient, so much so that even a huge part of your business is not even SNO related at all. Like, you know, at one stage it was almost expected that it might be. Yeah. And now you're, you know, like flying this plane solo.
Yeah. Going back to joining your team, I can fondly remember our working freelance relationship extended up to like 10 years at one point. And almost on a yearly basis, you would ask me that question of, hey, what's it going to take for me to bring you on board permanently and stuff like that? And I'd give you a number, which at the time was probably way too low from my side anyway. I've always undervalued.
It's still not affordable on my end.
But you would always be like, damn it, I can't afford it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Up until, 2021, I think?
Thereabouts.
The end of that year. And I gave you a number and you're like, let's do it.
Finally can do the number.
And I wasn't I made the decision that I'm going to leave now. That started the whole process. And then I went back and I was like, guys, I've tried to leave Red Pepper a few times prior to that.
Yeah.
One was like, I was working 3 days at Red Pepper, 2 days at the new company that I was going to join. That I was always willing to facilitate my exit.
Yeah.
I never wanted to leave anyone high and dry. I still don't leave people high and dry, even if it means me doing extra work or going out of my way. I don't want anyone to ever say, I worked with Edwin and he left me in this position. And as far as I know, I don't think I have done that. So in that process of trying to leave, I just ended up staying a few times. But in that instance, I went and I was like, listen, I'll help you find someone. I remember writing the position myself with HR for that person just to make sure they get the right guy. And it didn't end up happening, but I was like, I'm leaving for real this time. And then obviously they were like, well, what can we do to make you stay? And at that point, I just had been there too long and I needed to leave. And then I joined the team. And the conversation we had was, okay, you're going to take on more responsible. You're going to run this department. You're not just going to have this one role. You're going to work with the team and be sort of a leader. And the one thing you promised me was your work-life balance will improve because you won't need to freelance anymore because everything will be done through the division of your company and you'd have a profit share and equity and all that. So it was like, okay, I'm not just getting a job now. I'm learning that whole side of the business. And then after the first, I think the when it came to like getting my money out, and it's like, oh, now there's a different tax bracket. You explained it very well, and like, okay, even if I wanted to give you more, there's not. There's just this. It's like the cost of business, and which I didn't know. I thought like if I'm bringing in all this money, I need to take out all this money. It doesn't work like that. And then I think that conversation, you pushed me like, why don't you just do this yourself? And then now that problem's your own problem. So I don't necessarily think I was ready to make that jump. I've had friends in the past who were like, here's capital, start your own thing, because they believed in me. And I was like, I can't be responsible for losing someone's money. Yeah. And I still can't do that, I feel. But you gave me so much support. It made me feel a bit more secure in it. And I also don't ever want to do business with like dodgy people. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'll give you this job, but like sort me out there, or we'll do this, but find this fee. I never believed that. And from working with you, you always did things like by the book, 100% legit. Never tried to do something shady and stuff. And I was like, okay, that's how I want to do business as well. And that's someone I'll get into business with. And then, it's been almost 3 years. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, the fact that you're still surviving is a good thing.
Yeah.
We've mostly been profitable, which is unheard of as a company in those first few years and stuff. So in my mind and my thought process, like, we're struggling, but like when I tell other people about it, your business is actually doing good.
Well, how have you found it since you started PPS, though, in terms of, the added responsibilities of now being, like you talk about taxes and all that. And a lot of people don't think about stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I never thought about
the money is coming in, and they see the number and they don't realize how much of that belongs to somebody else. Like, what are some of the learnings that you've taken on as like your role? Let's put a title, MD of PPS kind of thing, like,
I think going in, at the time we had an intern that was helping me, who then became an employee.
Yeah.
So I think in that stage, I probably wasn't ready to have a first employee, because it's outside of all the paperwork, there's also, being responsible for that person and what they do and make sure they're getting what they came here for. So in those first few months, I was doing all the accounting myself. I had someone who did like registration and whatever, but like the UIF, the pay as you earn, all those numbers, I was manually releasing payments. So I kind of had to learn that process for the first time, as well as like managing leave for your employees and making sure software licenses are paid for, gear is paid for, like all of these considerations. I just went and sat down and did my job and left. Now there's all these other extra worries. And in our first few months, as you recall, we didn't have any paying jobs. We had the support of you to at least get us through that period. And then there were months where there was no work. And in the past, like if the company I'm working at has no job, that's not necessarily my problem. I still have a salary.
Yeah.
I can do some value-added work for the company, but like it's not my problem to find new work. Whereas now it's like, if I don't find new work, I'm not getting a salary. This employee I've taken on is not getting a salary. I won't be able to pay for my software on a monthly basis, whatever. So it gives you this additional drive to now actively go and seek business. I started sending cold emails for the first time in my life. Started being more social, trying to network. So I think it's been very difficult for me personally, because like I said, I'm not business orientated or stuff like that. And as a creative, we just like to sit quietly and do our job and get paid, man. Like even the networking side of things, I've never been a fan of, and now I've had to like learn that. And then just the tax side of it, we now have to register. It would come with its other things. Just when you think you know what's happening, it's like, damn, SARS is always coming for you. And like I said, we want to do everything by the book. So I have an accountant now who advises me on all these things. So the only thing I do is release a payment monthly on the FNB app, and that's about it.
Well, I think what's interesting is and what you're showing, and I hope anybody that will be watching this that thinks, like I've got a skill and a talent and I'm selling it to somebody else and they're getting, and I think that was a big deal for me as well, with the example of you and what we ended up doing, is that I never wanted you to feel like, you were employed by me and that you were there to build my dream type of thing and to just only, support my thing. But at the same time, I would not I'd be doing you a disservice if I kind of made the journey, like I have kids, right? And so on market day, I buy the stock, I bring all the setup and I put it out there. And then Alexa rocks up and starts selling it, and she calls what she made a profit. Never mind all the costs that went into it. And in the real world and in the adulting world, it's like you had to learn that it's not as soft as that, right? Like you said, everything, like, SNO had you covered on gear. SNO had you covered on software availability.
Even a table and a desk in a room to work in.
Electricity and internet.
All of those across here.
Yeah, and a lot of people just don't realize that. And I wish more young people would understand that, because again, personally, and I can only really speak for myself here, and I'd like to believe that through the example of yourself and a few others that exist in my world, I've demonstrated the willingness to help others grow to the best of my ability and attach to my train. But it's not an easy journey, and it takes a lot of sacrifice, and where you think your salary is going to go higher, like you can come and sit and talk to me about an increase.
Yeah.
But when you're paying your own salary, you got to base it on like how many months or how long does what's in the cash reserves going to buy us? Should we not have more work?
Yeah.
You can't just say, hey, I got one big job and now I'm about to upgrade my car and go on holiday.
Yeah, no, that was something, I think luckily early on I was so apprehensive to even use the company card to buy like coffee. Like I didn't touch that company card outside of like soft and like legit purchases, just because I did not want to come. I think in those early months there was that support, but I didn't want to ever have to come back to you and be like, I need money.
Yeah.
So in that instance, I was like, just make sure things are covered. Also in that journey of learning how to save money, I also learned that, okay, just a lot of profit is not good either. You can't just have this lump sum and then think like you're going to stretch that out, because SARS is always going to come for their share of that.
Yeah.
So I had to learn about operating expenses and paying freelancers, and sometimes paying yourself more helps as opposed to going to pay SARS.
No, for sure. And again, these are all the business side of the lessons that you're having to learn, the decisions you're having to make. And just because you know how to knock a table together doesn't mean you know how to sell it, doesn't mean you know how to, negotiate with suppliers for the timber, for the tools. And these are things that people need to understand. And I really, truly hope that young people that will be watching us and just the various conversations that happen around that, knowing that just be patient, A lot of young people just want to run straight into business and do it for themselves, and sometimes they're following the wrong examples of people that have this influencer mentality or anything like that, and thinking there's lots of money and fab life and Instagram life, when 20 years later I can tell you it's been like more downs than ups, right? And a lot of valley experiences over mountaintop experiences. And that's really the big message for me. You've worked on the Big Brother brand for, what's it now, 11, 12 seasons?
11 seasons. I'm not sure when this is coming out, so I can't say too much about the latest season. But yeah, 11 seasons of Big Brother Africa. So Nigeria and Zanzibar and I think Angola in the earlier years. Through Red Pepper as well, because they are the production company that produces it.
Yeah, but I gotta say, and the reason I want to bring it up, because you are the type of person that doesn't necessarily boast, and doesn't necessarily like self-promote, and so it's on us to sort of do that job for you a little bit, and I think it's fascinating because, again, whether it's you as Edwin, you as PPS, Premium Pixel Studios, you as it relates to us at SNO Creations, where, we always use the term that we box above our weight class type of thing as a business and as people. And we've done and we've touched some pretty amazing things. And I think you've done many things and all noteworthy and perhaps even award-worthy at times. But I'm fascinated by the idea that out of one person, for the most part, has come the look and feel and design concept of like 11 seasons of Big Brother?
Yeah. At this point, it's like clockwork. So we could do it in our sleep because we just know the process. But early on, like when I first started, all I was doing was just putting the strap up with the person's name.
Yeah.
Like the first season of it I worked on. And in my head at the time, I could never develop this toolkit, like, because it had this 3D, like, lava flowing, and I'm like, this is so out of my capabilities. So I always saw it as this thing that I'm not good enough to do. Up until a few years later, where I ended up in that position to create those toolkits. But I think it also speaks to every project you face as a creative. It has to look different, it has to feel different. There's different needs that the client has for that particular project. And whereas something like Big Brother, it's the exact same thing every year in concept, but obviously the theme changes. So it's like, how do you keep this thing fresh while still sticking to the Big Brother grand lines? And we often look at references of other countries that are doing it. And it's we try and be trendy. Like if it's a few years ago, we had to target Gen Z as a target market, and I'm still struggling to find the right aesthetic that works for them. But it's just a lot of research and development. I think what I like to do is always see what's out there, and also pick something I know I can execute in the grander scheme of things, because the timelines, the budgets, everything is so constraining sometimes, which can be a positive because okay, I can only afford to do this, so there's only enough time to do that. But yeah, I kind of look at each one as like I've never done one before in the back of my mind, and approach it with that same enthusiasm. Or sometimes when a job comes along, I already have this idea marinating in my head for months, or I saw something, I'm like, this is the perfect project to use it. So yeah, a little bit of hindsight in that way goes a long way. And just, when you're on something for so long, you kind of know the processes and know the people you're working with, know the channel at some point. Like Big Brother Mzansi, I know you work with multiple marketing departments, social media departments. They have certain requirements from you. They'll throw something out there which inspires you in return, and vice versa. All of the elements you produce, it has to now potentially go on a billboard or go on an app or something. So you're not just designing for broadcast and TV. You have to think like on a campaign level rollout almost.
When you came to us at SNO, obviously our core business is more in advertising than in broadcast television. And you had been coming from a sort of broadcast environment in Red Pepper. How did you find the transition? And I suppose it wasn't even a full transition for you because you sort of kept yourself in both worlds. But the advertising world, a little bit more short form, a little bit more targeted in its approach. Did you find that fairly comfortable, or was it a tough?
I think working in broadcast, I'll say TV specifically, so episodic content. And I'd worked hundreds of episodes of television. And then on a season, maybe episode 1 has that toolkit of graphics, and then episode 2, there's some slight variation. So you kind of know exactly what you need to do for the whole season. And pre-production time, you have all that time to figure it out. And like I said, it becomes clockwork in the sense that, okay, this is the new demands, but you're just designing an opening title sequence, a strap, credits, infographics, whatever the production needs. But you do have time sometimes to massage that, and you do have a previous season that you can pick up from. What I found when working with advertising, like the timelines are different, the expectations are a lot higher because you might be working with this client for the first time, and there is no room for error. If it's going to go on a commercial spot, everything needs to be perfect. So it was different in terms of sometimes the quantity of work. So maybe I'm working on a commercial, but I'm only working on like 5 seconds of that end board.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm working on an episode of TV or film, you could be working on minutes of footage and this and that. But you might have more time to work on that 5 seconds. You might have a bigger budget to work on that 5 seconds that you need it for. So you get to like really, really, really massage that piece of work. So I found working in advertising a bit more rewarding because you can really, really just focus on that one piece that brings your value to that project. Whereas when you're working on a show, everything's like expected, and there is no real room to do something different because everything's formatted down to the second, down to the frame. And but I did enjoy getting into the advertising space, especially being on set, shooting. I was always at my desk on behind the screens and hardly left there. And since joining you guys, I'm now on set and I'm directing a shoot sometimes. I'm there holding a camera if need be. I'm doing the composition of a shot sometimes. So I've been able to explore these other hobbies I've had, like cinematography, photography. Even like writing a script is something I feel like I can do now, whereas in the past I would get all of this stuff and just be like, Edwin, do A, B, and C, and that's it. That's all we need you for. So now I feel like I'm asked to do a lot more. I have the ability and flexibility to do a lot more and add value in other places of the production that I previously didn't.
Well, again, as I said multiple times, even in this conversation, multi-discipline is the way we have to do things, because number one, we are smaller than others, and secondly, there's on advertising, sometimes you may get a good budget, you may not get a good budget, but you have to still bring a certain amount of value to it. And I think, as you've seen with your journey walking alongside me, we've played in the advertising, we've played in a little bit of other areas where necessary, but our biggest passion has always been in film, and you've been walking the film journey with me from film one.
Yeah, I would have never called myself a filmmaker or anyone that was like embedded in the film space. But yeah, since joining you guys now, if I could just work on films for the rest of my life, I'd be happy.
Is that true?
That process is so much more. I mean, this industry is glamorous. Even at my time in production company, there's celebrities all around, there's cameras, lights, there's all of that. And on a film, it's like you can go to a street in Soweto and turn that into a set. And you've got 50 to 100 crew members, and just seeing how everything comes together in that way is pretty exciting. And then the final product and being in a cinema and seeing that, it's just like that feeling of, I don't think you can get elsewhere. And again, now having more opportunity to go on set and just help out is exciting to me, as opposed to just being used to sitting in an office behind the screen for the majority of my time.
Yeah, now I got to tell a funny story, which again, I think in celebrating you a little bit with this episode as well, because you've been an absolutely amazing talent. I was so blessed to have met and developed a relationship with you that's still going all these many years later. I think, our journeys have been intertwined. And, I even publicly say thank you. Thank you for the support and for the loyalty and for having my back in this journey, because it's a tough one. And without the right support, I could never do it. And you've really proven that. But the funny story is, so, as SNO and even with Premium Pixel, we really do punch above our weight class, and we have a can-do, we show up attitude to everything that we do. And so the story goes that Edwin, as our special effects, VFX specialist in-house, he's the guy that is tasked with making the magic happen when things go wrong on set. Sometimes you might find something in the screen that shouldn't be there, like the coffee cup in Game of Thrones type of situation. Had Edwin seen it, he would have made sure the coffee cup wasn't there type of thing, right? And so we had this job, and our task was to have a special effect kind of scene where a guy emerges out of the road, out of a pothole, and he is wearing scuba gear, and it's meant to be funny that, the potholes are so bad that one can scuba dive in it. And when the script came and we had to unpack the script and figure out how to do it, we did a lot of research, and we worked with different departments and things to figure out how would we execute and achieve this shot. And true to the nature of my team, and Edwin as the tip of that spear, these guys go to the swimming pool, and Edwin gets into shorts and a t-shirt or whatever it is and jumps into the swimming pool himself, with the team filming him, and they run these test scenarios where Edwin would jump out of the water or step up from the water and emerge, and next thing the water would flow, and they are watching for the way the water flows. How far does it, disperse to, and does it return in some ways. They're, a return flow and every little detail. But when I'm watching this team literally having their leader in the swimming pool, physically doing the shot, I mean, not only was it funny, I mean, I don't know if you find that funny, but it was absolutely fascinating. So, in a shameless plug, this is what you get when you get this team. When they come to bat for you, you have the absolute best.
Yeah, no, like to me, I don't even see that as doing the extra bit. Like it's like a problem we have. How do we solve it and get in the pool and see whether this is a practical solution? Because in theory, we can always 3D craft and like, oh, we're going to do this. But sometimes you just have to do it and see if it's possible. And those just one of those moments where like it's fun. At the end of the day, it's fun. And I think we ended up coming up with a solution in the end.
Yeah,
which didn't involve that process, but it gave us a good
way
foot to stand on and knew what we can't do and what we can do. And I think stuff like that, man, I'd love to do more of stuff like that, where I'm no stranger to picking up a broom and mop and sweeping the floor if something's dirty. Like no matter my seniority on a job or where I am, getting your hands dirty, I feel like it also inspires the team when they see like, oh, okay, this person is doing that, why I should be the one doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that will ever leave me. I just have this spirit of serving in me. Like I attend weddings sometimes, and afterwards I want to pack chairs and stuff. Like it's just part of me. I don't know why.
Yeah, but I think that's upbringing, my friend.
Yeah,
I think that comes down to upbringing. So big up to the mom who did the single mother job and got it right.
Yeah, no. So that work ethic was installed in me from a young age, and I see nothing wrong. I feel like it's expected.
Yeah.
But then people do see it as going the extra mile.
Well, whichever it is, at least our clients are satisfied and they know that when they work with us, they have reliable and the best. What does the future look like? I know I've kind of tasked you with paying attention to the AI space and to all of the future. I always say I'm old now, so there's certain things that I'll kind of watch, but I'll watch through your lens. So just tell us a little bit about what the future is looking like.
So I think we have to speak about AI since we're just surrounded by this now. And we had a finger on the pulse like from years back when these generative AI models were just coming out. And I must have shown you how bad it was back in the past.
Yes. I know the Will Smith one is a big video that people show how he looked when it first started.
And even our own little explorations of it, I try to keep a finger on the pulse. And it's been part of my workflow for years now. In a number of ways, but not doing the job. It's not doing the job. It's helping as a researcher. It's helping to find reference. It's helping to test out a concept you might not have time to go and practically do. So in that way, it's part of my production pipeline. I think it always will be. And then recently, it's hard to even keep a finger on the pulse because it's just growing so much. I have a finely trained eye, so I can look at something and be like, that's AI. But even I'm getting to the point where like I can't even tell if this was AI. There's certain like particle simulations that you can just tell this is AI because it's not working out. But now they're finding ways to even fix those. So I think the future of AI is definitely coming, and it's coming for creative jobs. If you're like a concept artist, now we can easily generate those concepts at an early stage in the production pipeline. And we don't have to wait days for this artist to generate that. Copywriting, it's helping in certain ways. We can use it to formulate scripts, cut down podcast clips. Like there's just so much value in it. And there's a real fear that's going to replace jobs, and it is going to replace jobs. That I think is definitely going to happen. But I've never felt afraid that it's coming for my job. Because of what we spoke, there's just so many little elements. An AI is never going to jump in a pool and test the shot for you. It can get close, but there's just certain practicalities that it's not there yet. It's having a few extra interns around. It's never going to be doing the job for you, at least just yet. And I even feel like even if you are getting AI to assist you, you still need to be that art director or direct it in the right way, because you must see it now in advertising commercials. Like you can see the influence of AI in it. And to me right now, it's like I can't even take certain things seriously if I can see like they just cheaped out and got AI to do it. There's so many campaigns by bigger agencies where we're still going and doing the groundwork, but then you'd get like an up and coming starter who can use AI for that whole workflow and get a result that's not close, but there. And then there are up and coming businesses who don't have a budget that a creative agency can do to get like a TV commercial made. So I think it's helping a lot of those smaller businesses who were previously, boxed out of having those kind of things done for them until they had the budget. So there's definitely that positive side of it to help smaller creators, smaller businesses, smaller agencies to get like a foot in the door. But I think we're still going to always have professionals at the head of it, or we're going to make it do things that, we couldn't do in the past and just help us in our workflow. So I do embrace it. I'm not too afraid of it. But I do think if you have concerns that AI is going to take your job, it probably is.
And I was actually going to ask that. What can somebody do that has that fear? And like you said, it probably is because of that. But what can a person do to sort of protect themselves?
I think in the creative space, like this has happened in the past with the Industrial Revolution, like just workers. So I think as humanity, just certain jobs can be, automated or done by machines. And we should. It leaves us to do what we want to do. And it's weird because in the past, you would think that you'd get an AI to do your job so you can go paint and do artistic things and creative things. Where it's the opposite now. Now you got the AI making art and the humans still doing the menial tasks, like of whatever it may be, physical labor and stuff. So it's different from the future I imagined, where we'd be left to do creative things and the AI will do the mundane things. Where it's quite the opposite now. We still have so much of physical labor being done and people cleaning our houses, and we need robots to clean our houses so we can make art.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I had a conversation with a plumber. And in that conversation, because of who I am and the world I come from,
that's a good job to have now.
Yeah, it was. But again, this is my point: is that you think that's a good job to have but then suddenly they're making the robot and the AI in the robot, and now can a robot rock up with a plumbing?
I think we're far away from that. I think whatever case, you're still going to have a human supervising. So if you're in that position, I think learn how to supervise your role if you had an AI
within the space. Yeah.
Because you're getting a lot of people who just jumped on the AI bandwagon and they're all going to get good, high-paying jobs if you don't embrace it. Like people trying to run away from it, find an alternative. I think you should embrace it, include it in your workflow, because it's only going to get better and better and better. As we've seen in the last year, it's ridiculous. Because in the first few years we observed it, you couldn't take that final product and sell it and say it's done. Whereas now we're getting scary close to it.
And you've taught me so much of the clues to look out for, especially on the copywriting side. You mentioned copywriting, and again, it is capable of giving you some decent offerings when it comes to words, but it still lacks a certain soul in there.
Yeah, it does. Like, even when you read a script, because right now you're getting sent scripts that are written by AI and you can just tell. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, you can tell that something's not right or it's done by AI. But if you are a client who's not familiar with these processes or someone paying for this and you don't know what a real script should look like, you're going to get away with that. So you're going to get a bunch of these, what should we call them? Chances who are, they're probably going to get in trouble now, but like they're trying to do the whole AI for the whole workflow and they think like, oh, this is the future.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're serious about your craft and what you're doing, there's only so long that's going to carry out. And then, like you said, your work might come across a senior person and be like, this guy's just using AI for everything. Why should we work with him?
Yeah. And I've seen it. I've seen it recently in some stuff that was brought to me, and you really can pick it up. The one thing besides the clues you gave me, which little icons or double dashes or all of those things. It tends to take your prompt and reword it into its response, right? So you'll see that. And again, I think because I've always been casual, so even in my communication within a business environment, I'll retain a certain amount of casual tone to what I do. And when somebody pushes their copy and their responses through AI, the formality with which that structure sort of appears, people don't write like that. Like
even certain buzzwords, like scroll stopping.
Yeah,
I've seen in every marketing campaign how to people stop the doom scrolling.
Yeah.
It's like these are AI buzzwords and they're just as people learning, they just keep using it in their copy. And like almost every small business you see on Instagram now, you can see those captions are generated by AI. It's good to automate that whole thing, especially if you don't have an in-house team, but you can't expect the same results you would get going through the traditional means, just because of the extra work that's being put into it, the research that's being put into it.
Yeah, but, like you said, with the podcast as well, we've embraced the idea that there are these aids and tools within the AI space that helps us cut down a podcast into bite-sized chunks for social media.
Because we did the hard work of cutting it down ourselves, working off raw footage from the camera. Like we've done, that's the thing I believe, we can embrace AI because we know how the process is done.
Yeah.
So we know it's saving us that time. But
we're still tasking our team to sort of not just take for granted what came out of the AI, but to sort of like oversee it and make sure that it's proper.
Yeah, so we still have to go hold its hand. We still have to massage it till it's like looks like a human does it, because it's only going to get more and more prevalent in everything we do. I mean, media in general, we've seen that shift now, and even with movies and stuff, we're trying to stay on par at least and not get left behind, because a lot of people are going to get left behind, I feel.
Yeah.
Or already have been.
Yeah, and like you said, you almost can't guarantee that you are on the pulse of the thing, because when your finger's on that pulse, something's changing.
It's evolving
as quick
so
as
fast
tomorrow.
now, yeah. And all the big platforms, like even Adobe, where we create stuff from scratch, it's AI full into it. It's like, yeah, I think making stuff will be much easier, but the artistic touch, the thought behind it, the message to the viewer, the being sincere in your work, that's kind of getting lost right now. It just looks good, I think.
Yeah. I follow this guy, Gary V, and he's always like also about trends and pulse and what's happening and what's coming and all of that. And one of the things he always talks about is that it's never too late. It's never too late to learn. It's never too late to get yourself educated and aware of something. And even if you're older, to change directions. He always says people take, being in their 30s or 40s or whatever, even 50s, as being, I'm old now. But if you have to adapt, you have to adapt, right? And so while a conversation like this for me, I would say is a little bit more targeted to young people, because I really hope when a young person that's getting going watches your story, hears the sacrifices, hears the work ethic, hears the kind of, build first, gain experience first before leaping into. These are some of the messages that I really hope would come. But again, we're not closing it to young people, because anybody could be sitting, in a job of 20 years and looking for that leap and take something from this. But what would be, as someone who's walked that journey, who's gone from the internships to the career within a safe job environment with a pay slip, to now being a business owner and an independent, what is your final message, I suppose, to such a person?
I think I'll keep it short, but just do the work. Like, even if you can get assistance to get it done, like you don't learn more other than when you do the work yourself. You learn the mistakes that come with it. I think in my short journey in my career, I've learned way more. This is nothing new, but you learn way more from the mistakes, and then your process becomes, okay, if mistakes happen, how do we fix it, or how do we avoid mistakes? And like right now, you can get a solution that's perfect all the time. But then one time when it's not going to work out, or the client changes their mind and now you need to do it from scratch and you don't have that capability anymore, you're screwed. And I think those opportunities are going to come up a lot, where you can just AI the whole thing and get the job done and get paid even. But doing the work is where you learn to deal with like the mistakes. Even production is, we're just preparing for mistakes. If it rains, we need to be prepared for it. So I think using AI is not going to help you learn the mistakes, and we all learn from our mistakes. I never put the wrong number up again on the Powerball, just because I had to pay so much more attention to that. So yeah, I just say do the work. Even if you can get AI, for example, to generate something for you, do the work so you know how much of time it's saving you or how much of value it's adding to your your workflow, because you might take it for advantage now and be like, oh, I can do this and this in an hour because I can get AI to do it. But that's not how the real world works.
Do the work. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And most importantly, when you're ready, take the leap. Edwin, thank you so much.
Pleasure being here. I didn't think it would get through this without me fluffing on camera. So.
You did well.
Yeah.
You did well. I mean, we are doing well. I think, like you said, we both, and all of us from this production side of things don't really want to be behind the camera, but we are in a world where we have to.
And then one piece of advice still stays prevalent of fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. Well, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to let us know. We are only going to get better at this thing, and we're only going to be able to really bring you the best of what it is that we can offer if we hear feedback and if we know what it is that we can do for you to serve you as an audience and anybody that's giving time to watch our stuff. But as always, thank you so much for your time. From the team here, this has been another one, Just Speak, the Shaun Naidu podcast. See you on the next one.
That was okay. I thought I'd suffer a lot more.
Yeah,
But,
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Again, it's information.
There were so many things we thought we'd discuss we didn't even get into.
Yeah.
We'll save it for the next one. Yeah.
But and this is the thing, right? Like again, I don't love the idea of like the cue cards. I did the cue cards with the doctor because that was like very like high level. Like I mean, again, we would have liked to talk about this and the ideas and practicalities. But would we miss it if it's not there? Like, but if I gave somebody some medical advice or information and I missed a moment.
Yeah, that's not.
So it's that type of thing, there's no wrong turn.
No, I thought we'd have to bring it up because we wouldn't have anything to talk about.
No. I always feel there's enough to talk about. And that is why I kind of like, it's not fully freestyle because there's always some structure in my brain that I'm kind of navigating through. There will be moments that we miss like this, which is par for the course. But
I had a good time.
I think the audience gets something out of these conversations. All right, you good? Mr. Precis?
Very good. Thank you, guys. Amazing.
Another one.
Another one.